everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Ashram Talks. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're continuing with chapter 4, which is Jnana Yoga, or the Yoga of Transcendental Knowledge. And the topic of the day is As We Surrender, So He Responds. So I think it's a very sweet topic and something that we were all looking for because it's connected to relationships. How do we establish a relationship with other people in this world? It's usually, connected to what we expect from others. And it's always like an exchange. So we give and we also expect to receive. So when it comes to God, how does it work? How do we approach God? If you think about it, most of us approach God because we want to fulfill a desire. And how does God respond to that desire? Is there, I don't know, like a process where we can get our desires fulfilled when we approach God? Is there a deeper way to connect to God? Not only by asking Him, oh, I would like to get this, I would like to get that. So how does a relationship work when it comes to Krishna, to God, or the way we would like to call Him and connect with Him? So to dive into this topic, so pleased to welcome Krsnacandra, who's going to guide us and has prepared an amazing lesson filled of also analogies and stories to understand in a more practical way. So welcome, Krsnacandra. Thank you for being here.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure being here and always a pleasure to share with everyone. I really look forward to tonight. I prepared a lot for this and I have a very good feeling about what I'm going to share tonight. So I'm looking forward to sharing. So I'm going to start with prayer and then we will go right into the topic. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Avandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavaham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantarada Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindabaneshwari Brishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Avrindaye Tulasi Devyai Priyavai Keshavasucha Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavatya Namo Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebho vaishnavebho namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We shall be examining Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 11. Ye yata mam prapatyante tams tataiva bhajamiyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvasaha. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. And as we continue our journey through chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, we can see how Krishna is gradually revealing more about himself and our relationship with him. In verse 4.5, he introduced the mystery of his many appearances and our forgetfulness. In chapter 4, verse 7, he assured us that he descends whenever there is a decline in Dharma. And in verse 9, he made a deeply personal promise that by understanding his divine birth and activities, one can return to him. So, we've moved from mystery to intervention to invitation. Now, in verse 11, Krishna answers a natural question. How does he respond to us? Is our relationship with him fixed, or is it dynamic? In this verse, Krishna reveals a powerful truth. He reciprocates with each of us according to how we approach him. Sanatana Dharma, otherwise known as Hinduism, is quite vast. We believe that while Krishna has many expansions and manifestations, Krishna himself is the supreme personality of Godhead, the source of all divinity. In chapter 10, verse 2, Krishna says, Krishna says, neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. A little further on in verse 8, chapter 10, he says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. As devotees in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we ultimately seek to cultivate a personal relationship with Krishna, and devotional service is the road to that path. But there are others in Sanatana Dharma who ultimately worship Krishna's unmanifested, impersonal aspect as the Brahmajyoti effulgence. I believe chapter 12, verses 3 through 5 succinctly explain the contrast between the two paths. The blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, verse 32 explains that the impersonal path is ultimately finite. One may fall even from the Brahmajyoti, just as one falls from the heavenly planets. However, the causes are different. From the heavenly planets, one falls due to the exhaustion of pious karma, whereas from the Brahmajyoti, one falls due to a lack of devotional engagement, because the soul ultimately seeks loving relationship with Krishna. Verse 32 says, someone may say that aside from devotees, who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to that question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. And what about those who don't even know who Krishna is and pursue the material world exclusively? Excuse me. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 11, Krishna says, everyone follows my path in all respects. That is a simple, absolute statement. Everyone follows Krishna's path, either directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly. One of Krishna's many names is Govinda, and Govinda means he who gives pleasure to the senses. All living beings have desires, and ultimately achieve them through Krishna's mercy. Not everyone is consciously following Krishna, but everyone is operating within Krishna's system of reciprocation. Virtually all of us are acting with desire, making choices and seeking results. Those results are not random. The results come through karma, the laws of action and reaction, the material nature, prakriti, and the sanction of the supersoul, also known as Paramatma, who is Krishna. So the journey of even those who are completely materialistic lead to Krishna, even if indirectly. If they want to gratify their senses, Krishna allows that and facilitates that experience. And we can do anything. We can rule empires. We can become famous entertainers. We can live as extremely wealthy business people. Krishna may fulfill, modify, or redirect desires according to karma and ultimate benefit. If we want power or yoga siddhi, we can have that too. The great demon Hiranyakashipu performed austerities for thousands of years, and eventually his wish was granted, although he could never be Krishna's equal, which was why he was ultimately killed by Lord Nrsingadev, and his reign of terror ended. If we want moksha, or impersonal liberation, Krishna gives that too. And if we want devotion, and we want Krishna himself, Krishna will give himself. And at first, it can seem like a no-brainer. When we first imbibe the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, we may feel as if we've swallowed the red pill from the film The Matrix and realize that many of our desires are empty and based on temporary things that are destined to disintegrate over time. Houses will crumble. Our bodies, all bodies, will grow old and die. Empires that once controlled substantial fractions of our world no longer exist. Their currency is worthless. And by the time we accept a new body in this material world, we won't even remember anything, including the objects of our particular desires. According to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 5, we eventually forget. The key lies in recognizing and refining our desires. There's an episode of the television series The Simpsons where the whole family goes on a trip to Japan. And eventually they lose all their money, and they're stranded, and they're unable to get home. And they were in a serious crisis, but they saw one hope. If they could become contestants on the Japanese game show and win, they could return home using their winnings. And the Japanese game show promised to fulfill their wish. The game show host asked, "Now, Simpson family, have you picked a wish?" And the father of the Simpson family, Homer, replied, "Well, I haven't talked it over with the family, but I think we'd all like a free dinner at America Town." And then Marge quickly interrupted her husband and said, "No, no, no, we want plane tickets home to Springfield." And they won the game show. They got their plane tickets home, and their adventure safely concluded. They could have lost everything, even if they had won the game, had Homer got his immediate wish. And this is our current dilemma as we begin our spiritual path. We may know that our true home is with Krishna, but as we decide every day what to do with our time in this human birth, we have the opportunity and temptation to prioritize fulfillment of our immediate, fleeting material desires. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, describes the material world as the great forest of enjoyment. Forests are traditionally known for adventure and danger. Ultimately, due to our nature as conditioned souls, this great forest of enjoyment leads to our own distress. A common saying goes, "It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye." And in this case, until it's not if, but it's when. It's inevitable. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verses 16 and 17, Krishna says, "Four kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Of these, the wise one, who is in full knowledge, in union with me through pure devotional service, is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me." For many of us, our spiritual life doesn't begin in philosophy. It begins in crisis. When everything is going well, we're often too distracted to turn toward Krishna. But when life shakes us, that's often the moment we finally look up. In that sense, the distress may be the most common starting point, but Krishna doesn't want us to stay there. He invites us to grow from needing something to ultimately wanting him. Even distress itself can be seen as mercy. The clearest illustration is found in the Mahabharata, the scripture which Bhagavad Gita is a part of. The warriors, the warriors or ruling Kshatriyas, are the second highest varna under the priestly Brahmins. The Kauravas and the Pandavas were cousins, two parts of a larger extended family who ruled much of India from Hastinapur. The Kauravas were at a temporary advantage when they disenfranchised the Pandavas from their claim to the kingdom. They were abused, driven to poverty, forced to wander outside the kingdom that was rightfully theirs for at least 13 years. But during that time, they didn't simply become tougher through overcoming adversity. They cultivated their relationship with Krishna. The mother of the Pandavas, Kunti, praised Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 25, saying, "I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we can see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths." The wife of the Pandavas, Draupadi, also learned to trust Krishna through adversity. When the Kauravas attempted to disrobe Draupadi and assault her, at first Draupadi wanted to defend herself through her own power. It would not hold off the Kauravas indefinitely, giving Draupadi only one choice: to depend entirely on Krishna. Instead of using her hands to attempt to keep her sari on, she threw her hands in the air and chanted with complete faith and surrender, Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari, He Natanarayana Vasudeva. And immediately Krishna appeared, providing her an unlimited sari and his protection. In the Udyoga Parva, the Book of Effort, the prelude before the Kurukshetra War, we're still in the Mahabharata, both Arjuna and his cousin and rival, Duryodhana, go to Dwarka to seek Krishna's support. When they arrive, Krishna was asleep. Both cousins wanted to get Krishna's attention first. They stood together in Krishna's bedroom. Duryodhana sat near Krishna's head, a position of prestige, while Arjuna sat at Krishna's feet, a position of humility. When Krishna woke up, he first saw Arjuna, then he noticed Duryodhana. He gave the two cousins a choice. One side could have Krishna's entire army, the Narayani Seni. The other could have Krishna himself, but under the sworn condition that he would not fight. Arjuna had already realized that Krishna was everything. He knew that wherever there was Krishna, there was victory, and he had great affection for him. He chose Krishna, having no doubts, and he was very happy. And Duryodhana, he was also very happy to receive Krishna's army. He received millions of powerful warriors, so he thought he got the better deal. He did not realize Krishna's true position, and that his transcendental nature was such that he did not need to personally fight in order to win. Krishna reciprocated the desires of both cousins, another illustration of chapter 4, verse 11 in action. Duryodhana did not want Krishna. He wanted what Krishna could give him. We see this principle throughout the Mahabharata, and early on, Draupadi turns to Krishna when no one else could help her. Right before the war, Arjuna chooses Krishna over an entire army. And after the war, Kunti goes even further. She prays for calamities because those calamities brought Krishna closer to her. Different moments, but the same conclusion. When Krishna is the goal, everything else becomes secondary. Calamity also became instrumental in my own spiritual life. When I was 20, my family experienced its own crises. My grandmother passed away after painful, debilitating illness, and that upset my mother very much. Shortly afterwards, my parents went through a very acrimonious divorce, which severely disrupted my own pursuits of higher education. Prior to that, my life was very comfortable and calm. In the material sense, I was very fortunate. I was a spiritually curious person with my foundation in the Catholic faith, and although I explored the Muslim faith and made it a point to visit other places of worship, including my first visit to a Ganesh temple as a teenager, I was relatively content. When I experienced grief, loss, chaos, and calamity, I ultimately sought spiritual relief, as I had quickly discovered that material relief was as tenuous as a house of cards. I quickly saw that beloved family members could quickly die. Once close-knit families can be divided through conflict, and that's also reminiscent of the Kauravas and the Pandavas, what they went through. And a career path that could seem so stable, sensible, and prosperous could quickly collapse rather than come to fruition. First time I attended Mangalarti, and that's spiritual services that are held very early in the morning. And when I sang the songs in Sanskrit and Bengali, I felt a very satisfying mix of joy and peace. When I attended my first kirtan of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I quickly realized that true joy doesn't have to cost any money, nor does it require years at a top-tier university first. When I met my guru, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj, for the first time, I immediately understood that he had much more to offer than any of my professors at university. And when he passed away or became unmanifest in this material world, while I felt the profound sadness of separation, I also continue to feel his presence and guidance in my life, and I see him as my eternal spiritual father. And even after losing millions of dollars in assets from a family business, despite momentarily giving into despair and holding my own beliefs, my own spiritual beliefs in abeyance, when I was inspired to resume my faith years later, I did so with greater determination and steadiness than I ever had before. I attribute that to how my understanding of the tenuous and volatile nature of the material world, how that eventually developed. I realized more than ever that the material world was a great forest of enjoyment. It is. While I don't consider myself an advanced devotee by any means, the distress I felt throughout my life led me to realize that choosing Krishna over the greatest material blessings should be our top priority, and that we should continue to vigorously pursue that while we can still remember our attachment to Radha and Krishna and our Guru. Once we shift the object of our desire from material sense objects to Krishna himself, our entire trajectory as a spirit soul most profoundly changes. Because once we stay focused on Krishna, our next birth won't be here, but it'll be in Krishna's eternal abode, as is stated in verse 9 of chapter 4. When Krishna appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna's own devotee, imbued with the love of Srimati Radharani, he composed 8 verses called the Sri Shikshastakam. And this is verse 4. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. And that is pure, one-pointed devotion to Krishna. There's a famous song about Krishna that's sang daily toward the end of the year on a month called Kartik. And that song is called the Sri Damodarashtakam. And the 4th verse says, Varam Deva Moksham Na Moksha Vadim Va Nachanyam Vrineham Vareshadapiha Idam Te Vapurnata Gopala Balam Sadame Manasi Avristam Kimanai. And that means, O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor to the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours, as Bala Gopal and Vrindavan, may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use to me for any other boon besides this? This isn't just a beautiful poetic verse. It's the realization of the singer that realizes there is nothing in this material world that's worth asking for. The singer isn't even satisfied with the prospect of eternal life in Vaikuntha, the domain of Lord Narayan in the spiritual world. They want eternal, pure love for Krishna. So far, we've seen that Krishna reciprocates according to what we desire, whether that desire is material or spiritual. But what happens when that desire becomes completely purified? When someone doesn't want anything from Krishna except a very specific way of loving him. And there's a scripture in our tradition called the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where we read about the spiritual journey of a devotee named Gopa Kumar. Starting with a simple mantra, he travels through different levels of spiritual and material reality and encounters karma yogis, jnana yogis, and eventually he reaches Vaikuntha, where one can live beyond the cycle of samsara, birth and death, and be with Lord Narayan, Krishna's expansion. But Gopa Kumar was not fully satisfied there. His heart's natural attraction was toward Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's domain. Krishna doesn't just give perfection, he gives personalized perfection. We all have an eternal relationship with Krishna that we can uncover during our spiritual journey. And when Gopa Kumar finally reached Goloka Vrindavan, his specific love for Krishna and Vrindavan was fully reciprocated. That is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 11, in action. In the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we also see this in the life of Raghunath Das Goswami. He was born into immense wealth, comfort, security, influence, everything that most people spend their whole lives chasing, and yet none of it satisfied him. He gave it all up to follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he later took shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami. And through that path of surrender, his desire became more and more refined until it was never about this world, or never about liberation. It was about loving Krishna in a particular way. Our acharyas, our spiritual teachers, explain that in Raghunath Das Goswami's perfected state, he's known as Rati Manjari, a servant of Srimati Radharani, serving Krishna not directly, but as the servant of the servant. That is the deepest meaning of verse 11. Krishna doesn't just reciprocate generally, he reciprocates personally. Whatever we truly desire, he fulfills. And when that desire becomes completely pure, he gives not just himself, but a specific eternal relationship with him. So the question Krishna is really asking us in this verse is, it's not just how do you approach me, but what do you truly want from me? Because whatever that answer is, that's how he's going to respond. And how we refine our desire for Krishna so that it becomes pure, how do we refine that? The answer lies in the scripture known as Sri Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami. And we may otherwise know it as the Nectar of Instruction, as translated by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And text 7 reads, the holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his desire is gradually destroyed at the root. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we can cultivate this pure, unalloyed love for Krishna. He will respond with his pure, unalloyed love for us. When we stop asking Krishna for things and start asking for him, that's when everything changes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krsnacandra, for this enlightening class.
Thank
And I
you.
have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I'd like to start with a comment, if you don't mind.
Of course.
And well, it's how I really like the fact that this class was also connected to our previous discussion last Monday, especially when you mentioned that there is like a long path from,
Hmm.
knowing we have a relationship with God. And in our previous class, it was like, okay, we know there is a place where we belong to. But
Yes.
one thing is, you know this, and the other thing is actually understanding it from the heart and
Yes.
acting in a way that it comes from your own desire to
Mm.
wanting to approach God, wanted to actually establish a relationship with Him.
Mhm.
And I think many people pray to God
Mm.
sometimes, or people who have started a spiritual path, and
Yes.
maybe also people who feel curious about God. So they pray like, okay, but I really want to see God. I want to see God. But God actually knows our heart. So maybe
Hmm.
because we actually have different desires and not the deep desire to see Him and establish a relationship with Him. So we may feel like, okay, He's not responding to my prayer, but actually He's responding to all the other prayers you're not making. You just have many desires you don't even realize, but God is in our hearts. So He's just first fulfilling all the other things we actually want at that moment
That's
because
right.
we're not ready to approach Him.
Mm. For some reason, as you were saying this to me, I realized there's actually a verse in the Bible, in the New Testament. It says like, if all you have, like if you have this, your prayer, your desire can be just like a sigh. Not, it doesn't even have to be spoken, and that will be answered. Like you don't have to articulate it. It just has to be in your heart. So I think that is some realization. But like if we want something, whatever we really want, that's going to be fulfilled. I mean, I think sometimes people go through the motions of praying for something and may not necessarily be what they ultimately want. Sometimes it is. I think there are a lot of devotees who started out by praying for answers. Perhaps they were distressed. Like I said, people start out by being distressed and they want to know what is the truth. They want to know who God is. And then eventually they meet the devotees. They become very inspired. They, read the Bhagavad Gita and other shastras, and they love kirtan. They become attached through prasadam and befriending the devotees, and then that starts out the whole journey. But I think yeah, just I know I've said this before, but it's definitely a matter of, I think, knowing ourselves and becoming just very sincere, knowing exactly what it is we want. And if, for example, we kind of understand that, okay, I want something that's material. I mean, it's not bad. We have to be true to ourselves, but ultimately we have to know, like, okay, but how can I transmute this eventually and make it something better? Because we know empirically just by reading these books that this material fulfillment is just going to lead to nowhere. So we have to um, be patient with ourselves too, but also in the process, at the same time, we have to kind of prod ourselves gently to understand and to hone the desire.
Yes, that's right. So, and you also mentioned it at the end. There is a level of people, of devotees, of souls who actually do not desire anything but loving God and His devotees and servicing them and offering all they have to Him.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of when you mentioned about this pastime of Krishna when he manifests himself as half lion, half man, this
Yes.
Nrsimha incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I remember when I lived in the temple.
Yeah.
We with the devotees we prepare the play, and for that the day of the celebration of the the appearance of
Mm-hmm.
Lord Nrsimha.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam
Uh-huh.
in Spanish, but it
Yeah.
says like it never left my mind. So it
Yeah.
said like, so my pastime, the Lord told Prahlad when he appeared from after he got rid of Hiranyakashipu and all of the soldiers, and he was
Yes.
pacified. Then he told him like, okay, so my pastime is to fulfill everyone's desires. So
Mm-hmm.
what I do, what makes me happy is fulfilling everyone's desires. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you want?
Yes.
I want to offer you a book. And in many other pastimes, we see how God, once he meets his devotee, he always offers something. What do you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And
Exactly.
devotees, pure devotees are like, okay, I don't want anything. Even Dhruva Maharaj, he didn't want anything the moment he met Krishna, but Krishna could see his heart, so he knew he had a previous desire, and he said, like, okay, now you have to fulfill your desire first, and
Yes.
then you can come to me.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, that's very well put. I think I would hope that I could sincerely say to the bottom from the bottom of my heart that I only want Krishna, but it's like a road we all travel on, and we have to through I think sadhu sangha, association with high class devotees, and through the process of chanting, and even like sometimes just going through our lives and just understanding through the experience of the material world that these things are futile. Because even when I think when we start out as devotees, we can see like material pursuits from a very different lens than if we never read the Bhagavad Gita. Because I think a lot of people, they're very bewildered when they're like, oh, I'm not happy from this. Like, why is that? And they may get depressed, or they may feel like some strong negative reaction. But when we go through that, we understand because we have that education, and we have at least some ability to kind of redirect ourselves to the right place.
And on that end, I have a question,
Yeah.
because you said that well, the verse also mentions that okay, everyone is following Krishna's path in a
Hmm.
way.
Yes.
So sometimes, as you just said, it gets a little bit difficult to stay like in a in a practice, a regular practice, what we call sadhana, which is what we do every day to
Yes.
approach this relationship. But and then you said, okay, well, maybe also learning from daily experience, even if it's not directly spiritual, it could be a way. But then does it mean that it doesn't matter what we do because at the end everything is connected to Krishna? Or like is it okay to think like this?
I think, well, it goes back. There were a couple of talks ago where I think I entitled one of my talks like "Finish Your Business in This Life." That was Prabhupada's quote. We should ultimately try to aim for the pure bhakti um, to get out of here in this lifetime, because yes, we could go through the material world and just kind of hash through our material desires, but uh my understanding is we get the opportunity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's golden age. Like, this is happening once a day of Brahma, like billions of years. So yes, if we falter, we might get the chance again, in another day of Brahma, and just, like, and we'll keep that Sukriti, because in chapter 2, verse 14, it says that, no, not 14, it's chapter 2, verse 40, where, there is no loss or diminution. So, yeah, we'll get there eventually, but we don't want to spend too much time. I think there's There's some verse in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, or at least Gaur Leela, where I think Mahaprabhu tells someone that they'll get there in a million lifetimes. And the devotee was really happy because he's like, wow, I'm going to make it. In a million lifetimes, I'm going to make it. He doesn't even go through that, oh, it's going to take a long time. I mean, for me, I think I've seen enough in this world. And I think a lot of people have gone through similar situations. So there should be a sense of urgency, especially, if we've developed like an attachment to Krishna or to our spiritual teachers. I for one do not want to forget my guru, because those times with him were the sweetest times of my life. So that's actually, I have to admit, that's one of my fears, that I will, leave my body and I'll have to just do this all over again, and I don't know what will happen. So I just want to get it right now so I can serve my guru and remember him always.
So it would be like, okay, eventually you'll get there, so you don't have to worry on that. But like you're never gonna make it. But also, if you got this knowledge, then you should take advantage of it. Like you
Oh yeah.
should value what it means and go for it.
Yeah. Um yes, we have to take off with it, because we were given something very precious. I mean, literally, like, we won the lottery, we got a needle in a haystack. That's what we say. It's an English expression that, there's this giant haystack and there was a needle inside and it blended in with the other hay, but we managed to find it. And that's where we are. And there are pitfalls, yes, there is no loss or diminution, but we have to be careful about Vaishnavaparad, making offenses, and just basically, not falling into just wanting to go back to like hedonistic activities, just I really do think there's a strong sense of urgency, and I think that also comes with the realization that we're in a really perilous place. Like I said, the material world is it's a like a forest, it's a and I saw it like as a scary place, like a scary forest that we need to get out of and see the light and escape.
Yes, that made me think of a book that my spiritual master wrote, and
Mhm.
he mentioned that actually we're not aware of how much we struggle every day. Like
Mhm.
almost everything in our daily life is like it causes us a degree of suffering. So
Mhm.
we're so used to it that we don't even realize this, but we're always into many different situations that make us feel distressed, but we're not
Yes.
aware that we're suffering every day, many times
Right.
in a day.
That is exactly right, because that's a coping mechanism. It's helped us up to now, but on the other hand, we have to step back and understand that things are much better outside of this place. I think there's a verse in Sri Brahma Samhita that I quoted before. I don't remember the exact, but I can say it's like every in the spiritual world in Goloka, like every word is a song, and every like movement is a dance, and that's like the spiritual world. It's a beautiful, beautiful place where we have Krishna's direct association. In the meantime, we're here, we're dealing with like people with very conditioned behaviors, even our own family, my own family. It's to be quite candid, it's been dysfunctional. Like, I've had family members that I love, but it's like we have to deal with a lot of unhealthy conditioning, even from those that we love here. And for me, like going to work every day, it's a struggle. But when we are with devotees and we do seva for those that we love, devotees that we love, then that feels so much better than going to work and making material money.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think many people who will listen to this can actually relate, not
Hmm.
only with the family experience, but of course similar experiences in their lives. And well, to close this conversation, I'd like to ask a final question,
Sure,
if you don't mind, if you have time.
no problem. I have time. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's great.
Mhm.
So, well, this is like more, I think, I don't know if there is an answer for this,
Yeah.
or maybe different perspectives, or I don't know if you have any source of information that is like, is this relationship that you said that every soul has a different relationship, like a
Yes.
natural attraction for
Hmm.
the Lord. So is this like forever given, like from the moment, well, the soul has existed forever, but has it been always with the soul, or can the soul choose how to approach? Like, can the soul build a certain type of relationship, or is it just part of its nature forever?
Personally, I mean, I unfortunately, I don't have like a direct scriptural reference to your answer. I might know it subliminally. Maybe I've read it in the past, but my impression is that it's actually both because um, our desire for the transcendental relationship with Krishna, I think, would ultimately stem from who we are inside our soul. It's just it's like a mirror that is very dirty, and we're cleaning that mirror with the holy name and with the association of pure devotees. And once we sufficiently clean that mirror, then we know who we are. So, it's not something that's cheap. It's not something that we're going to realize very early on. But I personally think we might at least have some sort of hint. We might know generally what our relationship would be. But it's a very long process, and I don't think we should speculation is not a good thing. It's it can be a bit dangerous. So just at least be humble to think that someday this is going to be revealed to me. But for now, I will just hope that I know what is my relationship with Krishna. Where is our what who am I to him? What is my love for Radha and Krishna? You know, what is it exactly, and who am I? And I think it does come eventually. For sure.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is something that, of course, is more than words. It's something that we have to experience. It's not like someone can teach us, okay, you are going to do this or this.
Yeah.
Like,
And yeah, we can't have some, and I don't believe it's like somebody, like we're beginners and somebody tells us what that relationship is. I don't believe that's in our tradition, and it doesn't seem to make particular sense. It's not something that we need to know, at least until we're much more advanced than we are at the present time.
well, thank you so much, Krishna Chandra, for sharing this. I don't know if you would like to go with any final comments before we close this session.
Oh, well, I would just say that we should all, I've said this before, ultimately, we need to look in ourselves, and if we're on this path already, we need to ask ourselves, what drew us here in the first place, and we have to constantly have that enthusiasm and love, and when we have that constantly, something to draw from. It's like a reservoir, and that can keep us going, and it can help us make progress in our path. To excuse me, have that enthusiasm, and then we can utilize that to become stronger, and to have, by stronger I mean to just cultivate our love, our transcendental love for Krishna.
Thank you so much for those final words, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you in the next session.
I look forward to too. Thank you so much for your hosting. Appreciate everything.
Thank you. Have a great night. Goodbye.
You too. You too.
And to everyone who watched today, thank you for staying till the end. If you're watching this later, no problem. You can also drop your comments, drop your questions here on the comment section. And I'm sharing with you our class schedule so you don't forget. We're hosting Bhagavad Gita lessons every Monday at 7:30 p.m. and Thursdays at 8 a.m. EST. So tune in weekly for inspiring discussions. And you can also browse them on our YouTube channel if you cannot catch them live. Also, you can follow us on our Instagram, which is Ashram Talks ENG. And we're also streaming on Spotify. So you can find Journey Through the Bhagavad Gita on Spotify. Feel free to listen and share this content with everyone you think might need it. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for supporting Ashram Talks. And I hope to see you soon in our next session, which is going to be on Thursday. Thank you so much. Goodbye.